Hello, friends. It is Nomad Brad coming to you from my box truck. How's everybody doing today? See, the chat's heating up. I see Chris B shouted me out. How long is Nomad Brad going to be speaking to no one before he realizes it? I appreciate you, Chris B. You've been watching, keeping an eye on me. I actually had a thought about that tonight about an hour ago. As I was preparing for this live stream, I said, man, I got to make sure I hit the go live button. So we did it. The curse has ended. I'm coming to you guys right now live, and we're going to do the thing. So I see we got a lot of regulars in the chat. Chris B, Polymath, AJ Scoggins from Lake Havasu. Happy to see you here, brother. Revo Runner. Charles Serratos is here. Good evening, Charles. Happy to see you. Desert Runner Rick is in the chat, coming from his sticks and bricks. Happy to see you guys. I'm going to jump right into it tonight. Oh, also we got Nomad King Gamer, the moderator. He's going to be in here, making sure everybody is on their best behavior. If you guys come with any spam or anything negative, King Gamer is going to bounce you out. We've been doing pretty good recently. In general, the Nomad Brad channel seems to bring a lot of positivity and good people. So we are looking forward to keeping that moving, and King Gamer is here to enforce it. John C in the house. Yo, yo, yo. Dinner with my daughter. Drove to her mom's house. And here I am. Work all of you. Woot. Happy Thanksgiving, folks. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. That's coming up tomorrow. I hope y'all get something good to eat. CC Priest, what is up? I'm doing fantastic tonight. You guys got to lock in. It's going to be a good live stream. We're going to talk all about inverters and electrical. And so I'm just going to dive into it because I want to make sure I cover the topic. And I have a history of just getting into personal chat and then not even covering the title of the live stream. So we're going to do it today. We're talking about inverters. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I just wanted to remind you guys, this live stream and all live streams into the foreseeable future are brought to you by nomadics.biz. That is my website, along with Sir on Dave. We have teamed up to create a whole wide range of DIY electrical products. Right now it's mostly electrical. There's going to be more stuff, but DIY products for your conversion, for your van, your box truck, your tiny home on wheels, your off-grid cabin. My goal as an electrical and solar installer is to help you guys DIY this stuff, because Nomad Brad is in Arizona right now. Next month I could be in California. I can't help everybody everywhere, but I put together a series of electrical kits, and the website's just getting started. But my goal is for you to be able to order, with my guidance, all the pieces you need and just plug everything in. No cutting, crimping, stripping wires, no math involved. You just order the stuff, plug it in, and you provide a little bit of labor, probably a power drill, and you can install your own electrical. So visit nomadics.biz. They are the sponsor. I appreciate you guys. Let's dive into it. Jay Stewart in the house. King Gamer the Enforcer. You got it, brother. Ellie Jesse here. Happy Thanksgiving. Real Cruz made the live stream. Happy to have you here, brother. Ellie Jesse is excited to hear about inverters. I'm excited to talk about inverters. Outdoors Dreadhead here, hopefully coming from his shuttle bus. How you doing, brother? David Coffee likes the logo. Thank you, David. Sir on Dave put that together with the help of some AI, and Nomad Brad added a few tweaks to it. I think we got it looking pretty good. I kind of like it. Not bad for just a random first draft logo. I think we'll rock it for a while. Polish American hit the live. Happy to have you here. Awesome. Okay, guys, here we go. Let's talk about it. So I'm going to show you, let's see, right here, just a little outline really quick of what I'm going to talk about tonight, just so you guys know what to expect. So we're going to talk about inverters, all different types of inverters. The first thing I'm going to do is cover the different types that are available. We're going to talk about regular inverters, inverter chargers, and hybrid systems. We're going to talk about especially if you get a hybrid inverter, it's going to matter what type of solar panels you have. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, I'm going to show you guys how to do a couple online calculators to figure out what you need. We're going to talk about pros and cons of an all-in-one inverter that has solar built in. and we're going to talk about battery bank voltage. And then, also I'll help you guys figure out how many watts you might need on your inverter. So this should help answer a lot of questions. I had a gentleman actually reach out last week, and he was shopping for an all-in-one, and he says, hey, there's so many out there. Which one's the best? And he said it'd be cool if you could do a live stream about it. So I'm going to do a live stream today, especially people that are getting all-in-one inverters. There's some considerations that you need to make regarding your solar. Otherwise, you could end up buying literally the wrong unit that will not work for your system. So I'm going to hope to help you guys with all of this, and I'm going to blast through some information and share some visuals. And then if you guys have questions at any point, just drop them in the chat and I'll try to answer them as we go. And so that's how we're going to roll. Okay. So the first thing that we want to talk about is what types of inverters are available. And so there's basically you got three options when it comes to inverters. So first you have just your basic, I guess I should first say, what does an inverter do? A power inverter takes the power from your battery, your DC battery bank, whether it's 12 volt or 24 volt, it takes that battery power and then it converts it here in America to between 110 and 120 volts. If you're overseas, like in Europe and Australia, they run at, I think, 220 volts. So for today's conversation, we're going to be using the American standard of 100. We're just going to say 110 volts for the AC side. But the main thing to consider is we're taking DC battery energy and we're turning it into AC household energy. And that's going to allow you to be able to power all your traditional home appliances, like if you have home refrigerators or battery chargers, like cordless tool battery chargers, microwaves, blow dryers, anything that uses a regular 110 volt wall plug, you will need a power inverter to use it. So that's what an inverter does, and that's why you would want one. And so let's really quick just kind of go over the options. The first thing you have, I have this Renogy pulled up. Renogy is a good value. Their pricing is good and the quality is high, so I like Renogy. But this is just strictly an inverter. So all it does is it takes power from the battery and then it sends it out through a plug to all of your 110 volt appliances. Very straightforward. And we'll talk about sizing and capacity later. First, we're just talking about types of inverters. So that's your basic one, just a pure inverter. All right. So then the next option you have is what's called an inverter charger. And so that's this guy right here. And this is also, I just went with Renogy, so everything's kind of the same. So now an inverter charger, it does everything a regular inverter does, but it also allows you to charge your battery bank from a wall outlet. So you can now, if you're like parked at someone's house or you're at a campground and you want to install a power outlet on like the outside of your van or your box truck, you can do that. And then when you plug in, that outlet will go into this inverter charger and it will charge up your house batteries. And also while the power is plugged in, it will also use the power coming in from the outside outlet to power all your home devices. So basically, once you're plugged in from an outside cord into your inverter charger, then it's not actually inverting, it's just passing all that power through to your system. So these are nice. These are really only applicable if you're going to have shore power. If you don't plan on having shore and you don't plan on plugging into outlets, then you don't necessarily need the charging portion. You could get away with just a pure inverter. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is a hybrid inverter, which is what I have in my van. And Renogy makes one, but they only make it in a 48 volt unit. So we're not going to really talk about that today. Let me see. Oh, here, let me do this. Copy URL. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So this is the hybrid inverter that I have in my van personally. Also, Sir on Dave has one in his box truck. And this is called a hybrid inverter. And so this is your inverter charger. And additionally, it also has a built-in solar charge controller. So the nice thing about this is you get an inverter, a battery charger, and a charge controller all in one device. And I think this is the best value that you guys could really find, because like this unit, for example, is $539, and you get all of that, versus if we look at that Renogy inverter charger that doesn't even have a charge controller, that's $629. And then the pure inverter only from Renogy is about 300 bucks. So for a couple $100 more, you get your charge controller and a battery charger. So those are your three options for inverters, basically. Pure inverter, inverter with a charger, inverter with a charger, and a solar charge controller. I see we got Charlie Pepin in the chat. Does shore power plug into that inverter as well? Yes, sir. So any inverter that has charger in the name, and this one might not specifically list it, but yes, the SunGold Power, well, this is just a hybrid. We're going to call it a hybrid. So a hybrid inverter charger accepts shore power. Chris B comes in with the comments. All-in-one plus battery works out to be way better value compared to Jackery EcoFlow Anchor. That's a good point, and I'm going to try to cover that. Let me copy your chat, Crispy. I'm going to try to cover that a little bit later, because there's a few things I want people to consider when they are shopping for like battery banks and stuff. There's an all-in-ones. There's a few things that actually make it a much better deal to do something like this rather than going with like a power station. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit, specifically running 12-volt appliances. Okay, cool. So we got that. So those are the three types of inverters. So I want to focus on the hybrid versions, the all-in-one charge controllers, because those kind of are the best value. That's what I typically recommend for people. And I can already see by looking at the chat, a lot of people are interested in those. John C says, where do you plug in a power hog like your AC? So that's actually a good question. That's something else that I should mention. So when we're talking about inverter chargers, when you buy a regular power inverter, they usually have plugs on the inverter themselves. I'll show you. So if we go back and look at this Renogy unit, let's see. So you can kind of see it right here, but those three black squares, those are your regular wall outlets. Like that's what you would plug in a blender to, or I could plug my air conditioner into that. My air conditioner is only 800 watts. This is a 3000 watt inverter. So you could plug an air conditioner directly into that. But additionally, most good quality inverters, even the standard ones like this, they have a little plug at the bottom, or a little power port, where you can install a regular breaker box. And so for most people, when they're doing larger conversions, you're going to want all your power to run from your inverter into a secondary breaker box. And then from the breaker box, it's going to go out to all your different appliances. So let me see if I can do this really quick. Let me try this. Okay, let me turn on my phone and see if you can. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys my setup. I have the hybrid inverter with the breaker box. Uh, I have a wired headset though, so you're not going to be able to hear me, sorry. But I'm going to show you really quick, and then I'll come back and explain it. Hold on. Actually, let's see. Give me a second here. Give me 1 second here, and I'll make it a little better for you guys. The man's got a plan. How does that look? That's pretty good. Let's see. Okay, so that actually looks a little better. So that's my hybrid inverter charger with solar controller. And so the box that says Sun Gold Power, that is the unit itself. And then what I have going on is the box on the left, that lower box, that is my breaker box. And so there's basically a power line, John C, that runs from my hybrid inverter, one line, into the breaker box. And then from the breaker box, I have breakers for separate devices and separate circuits. So just like what you would see in a house, where houses have the breaker panels, and you'll have a circuit for the bedroom, one for the kitchen, one for the air conditioner. So mine is set up the same way. I have one circuit for my air conditioner, and then I have separate circuits for all my wall plugs. And you can see I have one double outlet wall plug right above the breaker box there. And so that's the way that you will do if you're doing like a larger build, like a box truck or a shuttle bus, or even like a nicely built van. You'll typically have a setup like this. It just makes the most sense rather than trying to plug all your devices into the inverter itself. And these larger inverters don't even have plugs on them. So that's kind of the proper way to do it. And I'm glad you mentioned that, John C, because this is one of the products from Nomadics that I'm actually building. I'm actually building one right now as we speak, right? So you'll be able to order these from me, and it's all pre-wired. So all you'll have to do is mount this to the wall, and then you just have to use a screwdriver to connect a couple terminals, and that's it. There's no wiring, no crimping, no stripping, no cutting. And it's the same with the outlets. I'm also building outlets for you guys, right? Like your regular wall outlets. This one has, I don't know if you can see it, it's got USB cables on it. And so you'll be able to order these in different lengths with different setups on them. And these also have little terminals that you just clip in to this breaker box that I'm building. And so you can easily wire an entire system by yourself by just plugging stuff in. And I'm going to make fully detailed instructions on how to do it. So if you guys want to do something like that, I will have the ability to help you and just make it super, super simple for you guys, because this really is the best way to do it and really have a nice electrical setup. And the reason you want to do it this way too is it allows you to break up all your different appliances. So for example, like most like on the inverter, the outlets on the inverter are usually only about 10 amps a piece. When we go this style, you can have up to 20 amps on each plug. And so it just allows you to run larger appliances and multiple appliances all at the same time. and the inverter is still happy. Like, so for example, I can run my air conditioner and my cooktop and my TV and my lights all at the same time. And because they're all on different circuits, everything works happily and nothing gets overloaded. Let me check out the questions really quick. Rick asks, my inverter is not pure sine wave. Is that okay for my electrics? Yeah, so nowadays most inverters are pure sine wave. Some of the smaller ones are not. Pure sine wave, if you go back a few years, like 5 years, pure sine wave was a new technology that was pretty expensive. Nowadays, it's pretty much the standard. So I always recommend for people when you're buying a new inverter, always buy pure sine wave. It's a cleaner energy and it's compatible with all your sensitive electronic devices. Some devices will not like a modified sine wave inverter, which is like the traditional inverter. It's just a case by case basis. So I don't think it'll damage your electronics. I think either just they will work or they will not work. I tried using a laptop one time, a MacBook with a inverter that was not pure sine, and it wouldn't charge it. So that's up to you. And you know, it's really only for sensitive electronics like blenders and heat guns and you know stuff like that's probably fine. I think it's mostly you know like computerized stuff. So yeah, I mean if you already have the inverter, I'm sure it's fine. Just try it out. Charlie Pepin with the question. So what else do you need? Batteries, shut off switch, all in one. Yeah, so that's a great question, Charlie. And if you look at the live shot right here, you can see it's a when you get the all-in-one, it's a pretty simple setup. You run your solar wires basically directly into the all-in-one. Your battery goes, if you look at the bottom here, you see the orange wire coming up on the left. It's going into a fuse. So you'll want a fuse, and then it goes into a battery disconnect, which is your safety switch. And then from there, I have it going into a pair of bus bars, and that allows me to send the power different places. And then from the bus bars, it's going into that all-in-one. And like, so for example, the reason you would do bus bars is because if you have low voltage appliances, like a refrigerator, like say you have a 12 or 24 volt refrigerator or a diesel heater, you know, LED lights, that kind of stuff, you'll run directly off your battery voltage. You won't run that through the inverter. So that's why you'll want to have a bus bar, which will intercept the power before it hits the inverter. But you can see just in general, if you just look at the components here, it's not too crazy. Like if you guys have watched any, you know, electrical YouTube videos or seen pictures of like custom Sprinter build outs, sometimes they look pretty crazy, especially with a bunch of separate components. This one's pretty moderate. So definitely a hybrid inverter makes it pretty simple. CC Priest says, how many amps is your 24 volt to 12 volt step down converter? That's a good question. So I'll tell you it's low. I think it's only 10 amps. And the reason why is the only thing I'm running at 12 volts is my water pump and my diesel heater. Everything else that's DC power is 24 volts. So my refrigerator, it runs directly off the battery without a step down. My LED light strips, my mirror on the wall, that stuff's all native at 24. And on my next build, I'll even do a 24 volt water pump. So if you do a 24 volt battery system, which I recommend, then you can get most things in 24 volts. You can even get a diesel heater in 24. Suron Dave just bought a diesel heater and it's 12 or 24 volts. And most refrigerators are also 12 or 24. So you shouldn't need too big of a step down converter. The only time you'll need a big step down converter is if you're running a 12 volt air conditioner off a 24 volt battery bank, which I've had a client do, but I don't recommend it. Okay, let me hop back in the chat and take a peek really quick, and then we will continue. Jay Stewart, is the black breaker a main or double pole? The black is a double pull, Jay Stewart. Good eyes. And the black breaker is actually my solar power breaker. So Jay Stewart bought my solar disconnect switch from Pneumatics. And so what I did on mine is I integrated it as part of my main breaker panel. I just did this a few days ago because I'm getting ready to sell the van, and I needed to have a disconnect for the solar because I didn't have a proper one. And so I threw one in this breaker box, but that is what that double pull is for. It's for my solar. Polymath Channel says Pneumatics is the way. I appreciate you. Andrea, do you have a list with links of all supplies you use for your solar setup? So Andrea, the challenge is every job, because every electrical install is unique, all the way down to, how many 110 volt appliances you have, how many 12-volt appliances. Everything really is going to be kind of unique. So I don't have a specific list of everything here, but I do put those together for folks. So if you want help designing one, I'm happy to help you with that. But pretty much for every vehicle, it's going to be custom, because even the length of your wires are going to, like, the size of battery cable you need is going to depend on how far your batteries are physically from your inverter. So there's a lot of variables where you can't really have like a one size fits all, hey, buy these components. It really is specific to each build. So I don't have a list of like, this is exactly what you need, but my goal is to have most of this stuff available on the Pneumatics website. Right now, we do have the fuses and fuse holders available. We have battery disconnects available. We have bus bars available, breaker boxes. So within a couple weeks, we should have 90% of this stuff available for you guys to purchase. But what's most important is that you know exactly what you need and you purchase the right stuff. So that's what's really important. Chris B says, with Pneumatics, we'll be able to buy the whole setup and to put around our choice of all-in-one solar and battery. Yeah, Chris B, that's the goal. You guys can buy everything you need. It's all pre-done. You just kind of pick what you want, and then, we'll make sure the math is correct, and I'll just ship you everything you need, and you'll have some instructions. So it's super easy when you take out all the math of it and all the design and stuff. Because if I just give you the instructions, hey, this wire goes here, this wire goes there, I mean, it's easier than doing a Lego set. So yeah, that's the goal, is you'll just be able to easily assemble this stuff. Outdoors Dreadhead says, my diesel heater and my lights on the inside of my build are all 24 volts. I love to see it. It's a very good choice. Van Time Van Life says, why wouldn't you just keep everything at 12 volts like your vehicle normally is? That's a good question. I'll answer that. So the RV industry has always done 12 volts. And the reason for that is because the RV industry is very old. And so if you go back, 15, 20 years ago, your only real option for DC power was 12 volts. There was very limited things you could get in 24 volts. And the automotive industry pulled a lot of stuff from the RV industry pulled a lot of components from the automotive industry, which is all 12 volts, which is all pretty much low current appliances. And so the reason that I'm not using a 12 volt electrical system, and the reason a lot of people recommend a higher voltage for your DC, is because it's more efficient. When you're running a power inverter, like for example, when I take 12 volt DC and I run it through a power inverter and change it to 120 volts AC, there is an efficiency loss in that process. But when you're going from 24 volts, which is double the voltage, that means there's half the efficiency loss. So it's more efficient. And that's the same with 48 volt electrical. A 48 volt battery system is twice as efficient as a 24 volt battery system and 4 times as efficient as a 12 volt battery system. And the way that you can see that, like in person, physically, the way you can comprehend it is when you're hooking up a 3,000 watt inverter to a 12 volt battery, you need 4-aught power cable, which is huge. I don't have any with me. It's huge. When you're hooking up a 24 volt 3,000 watt inverter, you only need single-aught power cable. And so when you go with a higher voltage DC system, it's more efficient, and also you can use smaller cables. And so there's a cost savings and a weight savings, and it's a lot easier to route single-aught battery cable than it is 4-aught battery cable. So those are pretty much the reasons why we don't do 12 volts. Also, 12 volts has a lot of voltage drop over distance. And what that means is as you send voltage down a line, the further the voltage goes, it kind of loses energy along the way. And so like if you hook up a set of 12 volt LED strip lights, like you get the 16-foot roll of LED strip lights, the brightness from the end of the lights that are closest to the power to the very other end of the lights, there's a very big difference in brightness, and that's called voltage drop. And so when you go with like a 24 volt system, you don't see that voltage drop, and with 48 volt, there's almost none. So that's the reason why. And as we get into more electric motors, like electric bikes are all minimum 48 volts. Some of them are 72 volts. Electric trolling motors, someone's mentioning in the comments, electric appliances. There's more and more 48 volt stuff coming out. So just in general, with DC current, higher voltage is better. Also, here's another reason why. Let's go backwards. When we're charging the batteries, your solar panels, most of the larger solar panels are going to be around 30 to 40 volts. And so when you're charging, if you're charging a 24 volt battery bank with a 40 volt panel, there's a little bit of loss. But when you're taking 40 volts all the way down to 17 volts to charge a 12 volt battery, there's a lot more voltage drop. So that's a little technical, but basically you lose efficiency whether you're using energy or charging energy the lower the voltage your battery bank is. That's what I should have just said in the first place. All right, we're done with that. Yeah, Dustin brought out with electric motors and boats, we will see more 48 volt. I agree. I'm a fan of 48 volt DC. The only reason I recommend 24 volt is because you can't buy any appliances that run in 48 volts. You can't buy a 48 volt fridge or a water pump or LED lights. So basically, if you have a 48 volt battery bank, everything has to run through some kind of an inverter or a step-down transformer, and there's efficiency loss when you do that. But with a 24 volt, you can get things that run at 24 natively, like a fridge, a diesel heater, your water pump. And when you're doing that, it's the most efficient. And then with 24, there's less of a voltage drop. So that's why I recommend 24 volt. But as more stuff is available for 48 volt, it will be rolling out. Jay Stewart says, okay, I was assuming what was labeled as sold out was just not built or inventory was just not filled. Yeah, Jay Stewart, everything on the website that says sold out is just we're planning to sell it. We just don't have the parts yet. I have my van. Let me get you the phone. I'll show you. My van is full of parts. I'm just waiting to process everything. And additionally, there's some stuff that's just not on the website yet that I'm fully plan on selling within the next few weeks. I just haven't been able to upload it yet. I'm super busy between YouTube and doing installs. I did a solar install for a subscriber yesterday, and and then also doing the website stuff. I'm super busy. So I do plan to have pretty much everything you see here on my system available on our website within a few weeks. And we will have batteries available. The batteries won't come directly from me. They will drop ship. But we will have batteries and inverter chargers and stuff available. We're going direct from the manufacturer. I just want to show you guys really quick all the stuff I have here in my van. Check this out. So you guys can see I got a lot of parts. There's a lot going on here. It's keeping me busy though. Keep in mind too, all the stuff that we're gonna sell on Nomadics, like I'm all building this stuff by hand. Like I was just sitting on my bed half an hour ago wiring up this breaker box. So this stuff isn't gonna be like as cheap as if you just bought the raw components on Amazon, because I have to spend my time to put this together. But it's going to be cheaper than hiring an installer. So it's still going to be a significant savings over what you guys would pay to have someone come install the equipment for you. And it's easy, it's a time saver. You don't have to try to take time to learn all this stuff yourself. You don't have to buy all the hand tools, make a bunch of mistakes. So overall, when you look at the price of it, the quality, and then just the ease, and then having your own custom system that you know how to like work on if you need to, it's going to be a really good value. All right, let me look at AJ says, I concur, we're going 48 volts. Yeah, AJ got a 48 volt, I think an EG4 all-in-one. And I'm going to talk about that. I want to take a break from the questions really quick and just talk about a consideration with the all-in-one inverter chargers, because I know a lot of people are getting them. And so a lot of people have questions about which ones to get. And I want to talk about some of the limitations. So, and then I'll come back to the questions. When we talk about all-in-one chargers, like, let's see, let me pull up here the one I have. That's this one right here. Oh no, let's pull up this one. Well, yeah, let's pull up this one. Copy link. Okay, and this is really important. You guys do not want to miss this. This is the most important takeaway for anybody that's thinking about getting an all-in-one inverter charger. This is very, very important. I had a client that just bought equipment without really talking to me, and she bought the wrong thing and she couldn't use it. Okay, let me turn off the iPhone camera. Okay. So here is, I want to talk about all-in-one inverter chargers. So here is a limitation. So the cool thing about the hybrid inverter chargers is you get all this stuff built in. The cool thing is the solar charge controller is built in. So you plug your solar panels right into it. It's super simple. However, the limitation is that the charge controllers on these need they need high voltage in order for them to function. And so you need to make sure that you have enough solar panels and you have a high enough voltage on your solar panels for these charge controllers to work. And I'm going to show you guys a cool tool you can use to figure this out on your own. But let me show you what you need. So for example, if we're just talking about you get a regular inverter that does not have a charge controller, then you get a separate charge controller like a Renogy or a Victron, and you can buy that charge controller in any setting you need. So if you have like a small van and you only have room for 400 watts of solar on the roof or 200 watts of solar, you can buy a charge controller for that. But with these inverter chargers, they have higher solar limitations. So let me show you what I mean. This is the one I have, and if you go down and you look at the specifications, so we'll go here and we'll go look at the MPPT solar charging mode. So this little box right here, it says MPPT voltage range is 120 to 400 volts DC. So what that means is in order for this charge controller in this hybrid inverter charger to function at all, your solar panel output has to be between 120 and 400 volts. 120 minimum is what gets people, because most solar panels are only going to be 20 to 30, 35 volts a piece. And so I want to show you something else really quick. And this is why it's important to know which inverter you're buying. So here's another one. Now, EcoWorthy used to made an all-in-one inverter charger. I've done videos on it. I liked it. I installed it for clients. They pulled it off Amazon. I don't know why. But this inverter charger by Powland, it's a little cheaper. It's 350 bucks. It's a little scary cheap. But look at the specifications on this. If we scroll down, and now look at what I highlight right here. MPPT voltage range 30 volts to 85 volts DC. Okay? So, if you have a small solar system, you could use this inverter charger. You can get 30 volts with 2 solar panels. But it has a maximum of 85 volts. So if you're doing a big system, like AJ Scoggins pushing over 2,000 watts, this inverter charger will be too small for you. So this is what I wanted you guys to know. In order to buy an inverter charger, the first thing you have to know is what solar panels you're going to install and how many you're installing. And then you can figure out which hybrid inverter charger is right for your application. Now, I want to show you guys how to figure that out really quick. So here's a website. I really like these guys. This is Explorist .life. These guys are like electrical engineers. Let's see. Can I chat here? No, I guess I'm not signed in. Okay. Anyway, if you just type into Google Explorist Life Solar Charge Controller Calculator, it'll pop up. But what this does is it allows you to put in, so you have to figure out what solar panel you want, figure out the roof space, what will fit, and then your solar panel will have a data sheet with it that tells you all these things. So panel voltage, wattage, the ISC rating, and max series fuse rating. This will all be listed on the specifications for your solar panel. So here's an example. This is, let's go Renogy 100 watt solar panel. What do they got? What do they got? Here's one right here. Let's see if they have the specs easy to find. Specs. Okay, here it is right here. So you see, I went to the website for the panel. Under specifications, they will list all the stuff you need. So let's put in these Renogys, for example. So here it says, we'll look back at the Explorist.life. First thing we want to know is VOC. So now we'll go to the Renogy page. Here's VOC right here, 24.3. So we're going to type in at the top, it's already there, 24.3. Panel wattage is 100. These are 100 watt panels right here, maximum power. And then it wants to know ISC. So we'll look at Renogy. Here's the ISC 5.21. It says 5.78. We'll put in 5.21. And then it wants to know the max fuse. The max fuse is 15. So we're going to put in 15. Okay. And then now it's going to ask us our battery bank voltage and how many panels we want to use. So let's say we have a 12-volt battery bank and we want to use 4 solar panels. So here's a little image they give you, 4 panels. Now, if we scroll down, it tells us right here, 400-watt panels in series will give us 400 watts being delivered to the charge controller at 122 volts. So you can see if we bought this smaller charge controller, which has a maximum of 85 volts, that wouldn't even work. That's way too much voltage. That'll never work, right? Even though it says maximum solar input of 1600 watts, can't do it that way. Now, on the other hand, if, say, you had a smaller system, like say the roof on your vehicle could only support 3 panels, like if you have a smaller cargo van, then that's going to deliver 91 volts at series. And so 91 volts is too high for this hybrid inverter, and it's too low for the Sun Gold, which needs 120. And so there's other ways you can wire it and there's ways around it, but that's something to consider. So if you get the all-in-one, you just need to know before you buy it, you need to know how many panels can fit on the roof, and you need to know the specifications of the panels, and then you can find the right all-in-one inverter for you. If you're doing just a regular inverter, it doesn't matter because you can get any charge controller specifications you need. You can do multiple controllers. Something else I will tell you is if you could buy the all-in-one because of how cheap it is, it's still cheaper to buy that hybrid charge controller than just a standalone inverter charger. So in theory, you could buy that all-in-one unit and just use a separate charge controller. So I want to make sure you guys understand that you don't have to use the built-in charge controller. So like on this Powland unit for 350 bucks, that's like half the price of a 3000 watt 24 volt Renogy inverter charger. So you could buy this and then you could just buy whatever charge controller you want. You could buy a Victron charge controller, a Renogy charge controller, and use that independently. But anyway, that's it. That's my pitch. Make sure you do the math before you buy a hybrid inverter charger because you don't want to buy something you can't use. I'm going to go back to the chats. Acer Chromebook joined Silver Nomad. Thank you, Acer Chromebook. I appreciate you. It looks like he also gifted 5 memberships. Dr. Acer Chromebook is in the gifting mood. He gifted Shadow Reaper. He gifted Dre. He gifted Matthew Wallace. He gifted Joe. And Fig Jam Quilter all got Nomad Brad memberships. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr. Acer. I've been talking to Dr. Acer on the phone. He's doing a box truck conversion just like mine. He's currently in San Diego. And I'm going to do a video chat with him tomorrow, but I might be running back over to San Diego for a few days to help him install his electrical system. So when you tune in next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, Nomad Brad might be on a beach in San Diego. Who knows? And that's what I love about this lifestyle is it's always changing. There's always something new. It never gets old. It never gets stale. Next week, I might be back at the beach, and I'm excited about it. I'm going to go back to the chat and see what other questions we have. So Hector Quintania says, what would be a good battery 12-volt amp hour amount to hook like your system? Hector, that's a good question. Battery amp hours all depends on what appliances you want to run and how long you want to run them for. So there's no set answer. And it depends on how much solar power you have. Because if you have a super huge battery bank but a small solar system, you'll never be able to properly charge your batteries. So everything must be in balance. There's a lot of math and calculations involved. You guys can definitely do it yourself. The short answer is you want to figure out which appliances you plan to use. You want to figure out how many watts per hour each appliance uses. Then you want to figure out how many hours per day you're going to use each appliance. That will tell you how many watt hours of energy you're going to use in a day. And then you just get a battery bank that offsets that usage. You want to make sure your battery bank is probably 50% larger than how much you're going to use every day, so that you have a little bit of space in case there's clouds or something goes on, something happens where you can't get solar to recharge it. You can have a little extra power. And then you need to make sure that your solar system can provide enough power to recharge your battery bank. For example, I have 1200 watts of solar. The average full day of sun will give you 5 hours of direct sunlight. So if you take 1200 watts per hour times 5 hours, you get 5200 watt hours of energy that my solar system can capture. And I have a 5200 watt hour battery bank. So my battery bank can basically store exactly how much solar energy my solar panels can collect in a day. So there's some advanced math. If you guys want help with that, I'm happy to help you guys. We can book an appointment and I'll walk you through I'll walk you through some questions, figure out what you want to do, how long you want to do it, and then I can put together recommendations and some products for you, make it easy. Because the worst thing to do is to just guess and then end up not having enough power. And usually when people guess, they guess on the small side and they end up running short. And that's a terrible feeling. I don't want you guys to run short on energy. Alvin, AJ says, how many amp hours do you have? I have 200 amp hours at 24. No, hold on. Yes, I have 200 amp hours at 24 volts, 400 amp hours at 12 volts, which is 5200 watt hours of energy, which is a pretty small system, honestly. I'm doubling it for the next build. I'm going to have over 10,000 watt hours. In the next build, I already have the batteries on their way. I'm going to have two 400 and I think they're 460. Two 12-volt 460 amp hour batteries in series will give me a 460 amp hours at 24 volts, which I'm not good at mental math, but that's well over 10,000 watt hours of battery. Revo Runner says Santa came early to Brad's box truck. I agree with you, man. I'm excited to have all these packages, all these parts going out to help the good boys and girls that need solar. CC Priest says B-Rad needs a bigger box truck. I agree with you. That's why I'm selling this one, to get a bigger one. I got to have room for all these parts. CC Priest in the chat says Mr. Power all-in-one has a low minimum. Yeah, I agree with you. There's all kinds of options out there. I just wanted to show you guys a couple examples of a low input power and a high input power. And since we're talking about AJ Scoggins, who's doing a 48 volt system, I think he has this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, but I think you have the 48 volt 3000 watt EG4 all-in-one. This is a great unit. I think their minimum is also only 120 volts. Let's see. Let's check it out right here. Here it is right here. So the EG4 48 volt hybrid inverter charger has a minimum of 120 volts. It can accept up to 5,000 watts of solar. So that's a good unit. I think AJ has around 2,000 watts of solar, so that should be perfect for him. He can easily hit 120 volts, no problem. But that's a really good quality brand hybrid inverter charger. These things are all basically the same though, guys. I mean, I can't say the quality is all the same, but they function the same. You plug in the battery, you plug in the solar, you plug in your breaker box, you plug in your shore power, and that's it. They all have an LED screen on them, a couple buttons. They all have a relatively similar design. But yeah, if you're doing 48 volts, EG4 is a great option. That unit's only like, I don't know, it's less than 600 bucks. It's a good unit. Lunchbox Ben says that's why when people say I need a cheap solar setup, I ask them to expand on what they want. I agree with you. When people say they just want something cheap, what people are actually telling you is they don't have very much money, which is fine, but you have to help people understand that it's not about price, it's about what you need. And so that's what's more important, because I can sell you something really cheap and it ain't going to work for you, and then nobody's going to be happy. So what's really important is what you need, and that's my goal as a solar installer and electrical installer, is to help you guys determine what you need and then recommend products to offset and meet those needs. Dre says Costco is the best for van life. You can park there all day, get cheap food court, unlimited fountain drink and ice, plus you got bathrooms. I agree with that, Dre. I never even thought about that. Costco just might be the hack for hanging out during the day, because if you think about it, especially if you have a bigger vehicle, as long as it's kind of stealthy, like you could park a box truck in a Costco parking lot because they're used to businesses coming and buying supplies. So I'm sure they see a lot of box trucks and big vehicles and trailers coming in to load up on supplies. And they have huge parking lots. Nobody's really paying attention. And then you get the food court food. You get the $1.50 hot dog and soda refill. You get the chicken bake, unlimited fountain drink, plus you can browse around and sit in their couches they have on display. It's a perfect combo. I'm gonna have to try that sometime. I'll have a day date at Costco. I should make a video out of that. That'd be funny. Going back to the chat, Nomad King Gamer says, if you come back to San Diego, I can show you a spot where no one bothers you. I appreciate it, King Gamer. King Gamer's been in San Diego for months. He's sniffing out the good spots. I'd love to see it. Let's see what else is going on. I'm sure we got a lot of buzz in the chat. Dr. Acer coming through with the membership bomb. I agree with you, Revo Runner. I appreciate it. Yeah, Leroy says Costco's very busy tonight. I agree. It's Thanksgiving Eve. Everyone's there buying all their food. So yeah, Costco's a nightmare right now. Everybody, please click the like. Give me a thumbs up. Pros, cons of AC versus DC refrigeration. Let me look back at my list for tonight on inverters. Make sure I covered everything. We talked about the hybrid inverters. We talked about all the types. Oh, let me take the video down. Hold on. There you go. Okay, so tonight we talked about all the different types of inverters. We talked about specifically hybrid inverters and kind of the pros and cons of having the included charge controller. I showed you guys how you can calculate your solar panel voltages with the Explorist.life solar panel calculator. We talked about battery bank voltage. We talked a little bit about modified sine versus pure sine. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is what size inverter to get. If you get a hybrid inverter, basically the minimum is going to be 3,000 watts on a 24 volt unit. If you go with a 48 volt, you can get 5,000 watt inverters. That's something else, I guess, that I want to mention is if you get a 12 volt inverter, like the Renogy one that I showed, those come in anything from 500 watts all the way up to 3,000 watts. You really cannot get a inverter larger than 3000 watts on a 12-volt inverter. Some of the cheap Chinese ones on Amazon will say more than 3000 watts, but they really don't have that capacity. And if you look at the battery cabling size, the largest battery cable you can really get is 4-aught cable, and 3000 is the maximum wattage load for that. So that's going to be your max. On a 24-volt inverter, really all you see is 3000 watts. Now keep in mind they can output less than 3000 watts. 3000 is just the maximum. So on a 24-volt, 3000 will be the max. On a 48-volt, I think all you're really going to see is 3000, and then I think they have like I think on a 48-volt they have 3, 4, and 5000 watt inverters. But basically, when we're talking about an inverter and what size you should get, all that matters is what's the combined wattage of all the appliances that you want to run at the same time. And at the same time is key. So for example, if you have 4 500 watt appliances, that's a total of 2000 watts. But if you're only going to use one of those appliances at a time, then in theory you wouldn't need more than, say, a 700 watt inverter. You don't want to run your inverter at full capacity all the time. So if you're going to always be using a 500 watt device, I would get an inverter that's a little bit larger, get a 700 watt. But basically you could run all of those 500 watt units at different times, and you're only going to be drawing 500 watts. If you have 4 500 watt appliances and you want to be able to run them all at the same time, like say an induction cooktop, an instant pot, an air conditioner, a TV, something like that, then you would want a 2000 watt inverter, but also you'd want it to be a little bigger than what you're actually using. So you would in that case want a 3000 watt inverter. So what I tell most people, if you're doing a 24 volt system, basically you're going to get a 3000 watt inverter, which that's your only choice, and that's plenty. That's what I have, and I can do my air conditioner, my induction cooktop, my TV, my instant pot all at the same time, no problem. If you're doing a 48 volt system, same thing, 3000, 4000, 5000 watts. For most people, for traditional household appliances, you're going to be fine. The only consideration is when you're in a 12 volt inverter and you're choosing between like a 1000, a 2000, a 3000 watt inverter. And then in that case, you would just want to do the math and figure out what appliances you want to use and what you need to use all at the same time. That being said, I typically, if you're doing a 12 volt electrical, I would recommend a 2000 watt inverter as a minimum, and a 3000 watt inverter is your maximum. I hope that helps. If you're getting a hybrid inverter charger, it doesn't really matter. It's pretty much all set and you're going to be fine. Let's take a peek at the chat. Mr. Wynn says, I have 7600 watt hours and 800 watts of solar. Plenty of juice. Happy to hear it. That's a big battery bank. 800 watts of solar. Yeah, that's no problem. That's, as long as you're not draining that battery every day, then you're in good shape. Which, I can't imagine you consuming 7,600 watt hours in a day. That's a lot of energy. So happy to hear it's working out for you. Chris B says, is it easy to upgrade and add batteries over time? That is a great question. So as far as upgrading batteries, is it easy? The answer is yes, as long as you have space to add additional batteries. So some people they'll do a van build, they'll put in their batteries and they'll build a box around them, or they'll make like a battery compartment that only fits those batteries. So in that case, you wouldn't have room to add more. So I would suggest when you're starting out, if you don't have a big battery bank, I would suggest you leave room to add more later. But otherwise, it's as simple as just, disconnecting the battery bank, adding in a new set of cables, and then reconnecting the battery bank. So it is easy. The other thing to consider though is when we're talking about adding batteries, well, for anything we discuss, there's like what's recommended, and then there's what's actually realistically possible. And so the battery manufacturers will tell you do not mix brands of batteries. Do not mix the same brand of batteries that have different BMS systems. BMS stands for battery management system. That's like the brains that control internally your lithium batteries. The battery manufacturers will also tell you do not mix lithium batteries that are the same brand, same BMS, if the batteries are more than 30 days, like if they're more than 30 days apart. So if you install a set of batteries, you're not supposed to install a second set that's the same after 30 days. And the reason they say this is because battery cells degrade over time, and if you connect a weaker cell to a newer cell, it can pull down the newer cell to match the weaker cell. So they will tell you that. However, what I can say is on this van, on my first set of lithium batteries, I had one 200 amp hour, and I added a second 200 amp hour it was like a couple months in between, and I had no issues. And I'll tell you another story that's even more crazy. My buddy Mark from Wanderbox, he has a set of like old Chins lithium batteries that are 12 volts. And then he asked me, and I gave him a fair warning, and he said he didn't care. He asked me to add a brand new set of batteries that was a completely different manufacturer, different amp hours, that are like, these old batteries are like 2 years old, and this new set is brand new. So we're talking about batteries, different brand, different BMS, 2 years apart, and he had me connect them in series because he has a 24 volt battery bank. And so he had like basically all the things you're not supposed to do, and it all worked perfectly fine. And to this day, it's still working fine. So that is the story I will tell you. Those are the things you're not supposed to do. However, I know people that have done all the things you're not supposed to do without any issues. AJ says we're going to run 300 amp hour batteries. That's a good choice. That's a big bank. That's almost 15,000 watt hours. That's a monster. I love to see it. That's a massive, massive battery bank, which is good, AJ, because I know you're going to do the mini split. I know your girl does like computer work. She's probably on the computer all day. If you're doing any mobile mechanic stuff, you might want to run, power tools, battery chargers. So yeah, I mean, if you have, around 15,000 watt hours of battery, and you have, I forget what you said, 2,300 watts or something with solar, you're going to be in pretty good shape, buddy. That's a badass system. Happy for you. Revo Runner says pretty soon Brad's going to need a semi-truck. I hear you, man. I'm debating. I mean, I'm looking at buying this next box truck, and I already mentally committed to a 16-foot, but I'm like, is that going to be big enough? I don't know, dude. I don't know what's going to happen. It's wild. So we'll see how the website does and how inventory progresses, and we'll just see how many orders come in, because my goal is to remain a nomad. I don't want to have to get get a warehouse in a city and personally work in a warehouse. Like, that kills the whole Nomad Brad story. I can't let it happen. But my thought was, I guess if I did have to get a big ass box truck, like Zach Zoller's 26-foot box, I would just basically just roam from wilderness to wilderness in big open BLM land. So I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. But either way, I'm happy. I'm excited for a new van build, and It's going to be good. I'm listing the van for sale this weekend. This Sunday's video on my regular YouTube channel will be my van for sale video. So check it out, see the final finished product of the van, and share it with your friends. Help me sell this van and help me start a new van build because I know a lot of you are excited to see it. Dre says, will this be on the test? Absolutely, Dre. I hope you're taking notes. This is going to be on the test. Homero says, thanks for simplifying that scenario. I hope it helps, guys. I know, everything we're talking about is kind of, it's math and it's not super simple. And so I try to do my best to explain it and make it understandable, and I hope that it is. I hope you guys can pick up what I'm putting down. Polymath says, I repeat the video instead, King, and help for the cause. I appreciate you, Polymath. Appreciate you being here. Joanne says, thank you. See you in San Diego. Sounds good, Joanne. Happy to see you in San Diego. Jay Will says, I like big battery banks and I cannot lie. Hey, there you go. I like big banks and I cannot lie. Spectre Nation, Ayo Brad, you're looking good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I got a haircut in Mexico a few weeks ago. It's working pretty good for me. Mr. Wynn said it's like mixing AA batteries. I agree, Mr. Wynn. That's what they tell me. Hector says, is it possible to run 24-volt all-in-one to a server rack with a step up or step down buck converter? Hector, so they make 24-volt server rack batteries. So you can get a 24-volt all-in-one, and you can get a 24-volt server rack battery. But the thing is, Hector, you don't want anything, you don't want any devices in between your batteries and your all-in-one inverter charger. You don't want anything in between it. So now you can wire, like if you have, I don't know what battery voltage you're talking about, but if you have 48-volt server rack battery, then get a 48-volt all-in-one inverter. Or if you have a 48-volt all-in-one, you can use two 24-volt server rack batteries to hit 48 volts. 24, and 24. So it shouldn't be a problem. But I always recommend, guys, just in general, I always recommend that your battery voltage matches your inverter voltage. So if you have a 24-volt inverter or a 48-volt inverter, I recommend you have 24-volt or 48-volt batteries. It's not required, and this is why I recommend it. If you do two batteries in series to create a final voltage, for example, if you have two 12-volt batteries, like I do, wired in series to make a 24-volt battery bank for my 24-volt all-in-one inverter, if one of those batteries fails, it wipes out my entire electrical system. Nothing is usable. Versus if I had two 24-volt batteries and one battery fails, my good battery is still 24 volts, which is the voltage of my inverter, so I can still run things. But I can't do that if I'm using lower voltage batteries to reach a higher voltage. Does that make sense? Now, like AJ says, he's using 48-volt server rack batteries on a 48-volt inverter, which is perfect. If a lot of some people use four 12-volt batteries to reach a 48-volt battery bank, which is dangerous because now you're relying on four separate batteries to all work properly and together and to have a balanced voltage for all your electrical to work. So I don't recommend it. The reason why I did mine this way is because back when I installed this inverter 2 years ago, 24-volt batteries were like twice the cost as 12-volt versions. So for me, it was a budget issue. And nowadays, the price has come down. It's a lot closer. It's still cheaper to buy 12-volt batteries in lithium just because it's supply and demand, and they create a lot more 12-volt batteries than they do 24. But you can get like 24-volt 200 amp hour batteries for pretty, or 24-volt 100 amp hour for pretty much the same price as a 12-volt 200 amp hour. Now, you guys are going to wonder, Nomad Brad, why are you doing 12-volt 400 amp hour batteries for a 24-volt system in your new box truck build? And the answer is because I got them from a sponsor for free, and the sponsor did not have 24-volt batteries available. All they had is 12-volt batteries. And these batteries would cost me $2,400 out of pocket. And so I was like, buy batteries out of pocket for $2,200, or get free batteries and just mix the volt, run them in series to 12 volts to equal 24, which has been working for me fine for over 2 years in this build. So that's why I did that. It's not optimal, but it should be totally fine. Just so you guys know. IJURSIC, Ijerzik says, simple is good, but you explain things well. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try my best. Holy cow. AJ Scoggins, 2,800 watts of solar. That's a monster system. So 2,800 watts. Yeah. And then 15 kilowatt hours. That's a monster electrical system, brother. You're going to be pumping. I might have to lean on you for some electrical support out at Schoolie Palooza, bro. If we get a couple cloudy, stormy days like we did last year, I might be out of commission. I might need to run an extension cord over to AJ's rig. You better park close, brother. I better have you circled up next to me. Mr. Spectre, I'm still in Arizona. I might be going to San Diego next week to do an installation. I will let you guys know. AJ says, I'm excited for the new build. I appreciate that, AJ. I'm excited to get it going. John C's out of here. Thanks for stopping by, John C. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you get to see your daughter. I hope you have lots of delicious food. I'm so excited for the Thanksgiving dinner. I can't wait. My dad and his girlfriend, Carolyn, were invited to a big community Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm going to be a part of that. I got grandfathered in because I'm his son, and it's going to be a lot of good home cooking. All kinds of turkey and probably hams and green beans and pies. I can't wait. I'm going to eat so much food. I'm going to stuff my face and come home and take a huge, huge nap. I'm excited for it. Andrea says, do you have any video about SIG solar panels? I do not. That's the new flexible technology. I think you can walk on it. Maybe that's the walkable style. I don't have any videos on it. I haven't tried any out. Revo Runner says, Brad has the exact haircut like Baby Groot comic. I appreciate it. I like Groot. He's a cool guy. CC Priest, are you using the LI Time 460? No, I'm not. I'll show you guys what I'm using for batteries in the new rig. So Epoch reached out to me. These guys are actually a really good manufacturer. It's an American company. I was contacted directly by their chief marketing officer. So it's nice that they have a U.S. base. They have U.S. phone support. Like, you can call and talk to somebody if you need to. The cool thing about these batteries is they are so they're 12.8 volt, 460 amp hour. The cool thing about these batteries is they are self-heating, which I do want because I plan to build a battery box underneath my next box truck, because I never need to access the batteries. Like with the inverter or the breakers, sometimes you need to access them from inside the rig, but the batteries you really don't. They just take up space. So I'm gonna mount these outside the rig underneath in a box. So I will want the self-heating version. These are self-heating, and additionally, these are Bluetooth. So they actually have a built-in Bluetooth app, so you could log in and with your app, and you could like monitor the battery condition without having to look at your charge controller or your shunt or any of that type of stuff. Yeah, these batteries are badass. Look at the specs on these. So 200 amps of continuous discharge. And so that's what I'll be able to use, since I'll be at 24 volts, but they'll be in series. So I'll be able to continuously discharge up to 200 amps. And then additionally, they have an 11-year, look at this down in the corner, they have an 11-year manufacturer warranty, which is super, super incredible. I mean, I think Victron has a 10-year warranty. So yeah, I mean, super good batteries, 11-year warranty, self-heating, Bluetooth. And I think you can turn the battery off from the app. Usually it has that option. So yeah, Epoch is super good battery. I'm going to be doing a few reviews. So I got two of them for free, but it's not really for free. It's for trade. So I'm going to be making some review videos for my YouTube channel. I'll be testing these videos out. I will be sharing the, how they work for me over the course of their life. So it was a trade. Epoch's going to get a lot of marketing out of it. I'm going to create they're going to be in probably half a dozen videos by the time you figure how many times I show off my electrical during the full van build. They're actually getting a pretty good deal, basically paying me $2,600, giving me $2,600 worth of merch, and I'm going to make them a whole bunch of videos. So anyway, those are the videos I'll be using in my new build. And they don't have anything close to that in 24 volts, so that's why I accepted their offer. Leroy says, can flexible solar panels be part of the shade canopy that rolls up when traveling? Yeah, they make solar awnings. That's what you're basically describing. I'm just looking online really quick. I've seen them. A company actually stopped by at Tiny Fest last year and showed me some that they make that are like on the market, but it looks like they're pretty new. I'm not seeing them right away on Amazon. Here's one. Yeah. So here's the problem with any new technology, they're not cheap, right? So look at this 800-watt solar awning for $3,800. Oh, you guys can't see that. Hold on. There. $3,800, and it's only 800 watts. So, it's not realistic right now. I don't think many people are going to pay that. I mean, if you got money, sure. But anyway. Yeah, so they do make it. I don't know that I would not recommend using flexible panels as an awning, because flexible panels, even though they are flexible, they are not nearly as flexible as this. Like, you cannot roll up flexible panels like you can roll up an awning. I heard EcoFlow came out with their own batteries. Is that true? They should. You know why? Because they watched my video where I got the inverter charger and I hooked up external batteries to it. And that's one thing I'm going to be doing in my on my review videos is I'm going to hook up. I'm going to use. So I'm going to make a really cool video for you guys. I'm going to use my EcoFlow because, okay, once I sell this van, I'm going to be living in my new box truck, and I'm going to be living in it without anything, like unbuilt, unfurnished. So I'm going to use these two batteries that I'm getting for free. Not for free, I should say for trade, because I'm going to be putting an effort to make advertising for these guys. Anyway, I'm going to have these two big 460 amp hour batteries, and then with EcoFlow's power station and their alternator charger, I can use those huge 460 amp hour batteries to power my EcoFlow, which will then power my devices in my box truck. And then I can plug my solar panels, because I have 400 watts of flexible solar. I can plug that in directly to the EcoFlow to charge my EcoFlow, but also through the EcoFlow alternator charger, I can send the solar power to charge up my 460 amp hour Epoch batteries. So it's a really cool little hack that I discovered, and I'm going to be doing that on a video. And so if you guys are using, if you guys are looking into power stations and you want to get an all-in-one, but you want something that's expandable and that can be used with like your own big-ass battery bank, I would recommend EcoFlow for that. It's a pretty cool setup. Polymath Channel says 11-year warranty for use in 3 different builds. Polymath, you're right, dude. You know me too well. I've been a nomad for almost 7 years, and this is the 4th vehicle I've lived in, and the next one is going to be vehicle number 5. It's absolute madness. I'm an addict. I think I have a problem. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm hungry. It's 8:30 for me in Arizona time. I gotta make dinner. We've been going for an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody that's tuned into the live tonight. I think we did a good job. We nailed it. We talked all about inverters and electrical and batteries. There was some pretty good knowledge bombs dropped tonight. And I really like doing these videos live rather than me just making a pre-recorded video into my regular video feed about, you know, electrical. I like doing the live aspect because you guys get to ask questions, and that really helps me out because I don't really know what you guys don't know, or I don't know what you guys want to know. So I really like this format. I'm going to be doing more of these videos in the future, where I have, it's kind of like almost like a class where I'm teaching some stuff, explaining some stuff, sharing some information, but you guys are able to participate and ask questions. So let me know if you have topics you would be interested. Leave a comment if there's topics you would be interested in knowing more about, and that can be anything related to van life or box truck life, electrical, plumbing, DIY builds, getting mail on the road, how to find places to park, just anything related to being a nomad that you want to have a discussion like this about, where I have a little bit of prepared information. Let me know, and I'll be looking to incorporating that into the future videos. So that's it for me. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Dr. Acer Chromebook, I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. your time, sir, on a Google chat. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Please enjoy yourself. Have some turkey, have some ham, have some pumpkin pie. That's it for me. Nomad Brad, signing out for my box truck. See you guys next week. Peace.